Hello, hosts and travelers. Welcome to the podcast, Hosting Your Home. Each day around the world, millions of guests stay in other people's homes using the Airbnb platform. Debbie Herdert looks for stories that come from these connections to share them with you. Now listen in as we hear stories that teach us the human side of hosting your home.
Hi everybody, this is Debbie with Hosting Your Home. Today we talk with April Brenneman. This is a heartwarming story of a neighborhood community coming together to support a family in distress. April is a sincere and compassionate mom of 5. Here's her story of their Airbnb experience and what it has meant to her and her family. I think you'll really enjoy this one. We're in the home of April Brenneman, who has a treehouse in Southwest Portland. Hi, April.
Hi. How you doing, Debbie?
Great. Thanks for doing this with me. I appreciate it.
Sure.
So I'm looking out your windows at this amazing structure in your backyard called the treehouse. And we're really interested in the story behind the treehouse. How did you get started with the treehouse, and what does it mean to you?
Well, back in 2004, my youngest child, I have 5 children, and my youngest was 4, and he was diagnosed with cancer. So this treehouse was actually what he called it was the house in the trees. That's what he wanted to be created by Make-A-Wish, but Make-A-Wish couldn't do that. So the community stepped in. The idea of the treehouse spread by word of mouth to the community, and before we knew it, this house was being built in our backyard.
So I'm really sorry to hear about your son's cancer. First of all, how is he doing?
He is a survivor. He is 15 years old.
Oh, wonderful.
And
congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's been a long road, and he has a lot of side effects from the treatment that we continue to deal with. So it's never really over, but he is no evidence of disease, NED, for 11 years now.
That is fabulous.
Yes,
that is
it
fabulous.
is.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
So Make-A-Wish could not build the treehouse that he wanted. Is that correct?
Yes. They could not do it because it was going to add to our property value.
Oh.
Then someone heard that was what this little 4-year-old boy wanted, was a huge treehouse in the backyard where his family, a family of 7, could sleep together and just hang out together. Once they heard that, their wheels began turning. They were filled with so much love and just compassion, and it just became a snowball effect.
Goodness.
Before we knew it, this 500 square foot treehouse was being built in our backyard.
Oh, that's fabulous. Was it built around a tree that was already there?
Yes, there were 3 trees actually that were growing through the treehouse. So they set the treehouse on, it is sitting on the ground, but the trees grew through the middle of it. And we had it that way for about 10 years. But there was just no way to keep the rain out. And yeah, and so we ended up chopping off the tops of the trees and re-roofing so that it was all sealed. But if you go inside the trees, you can see the trees coming through the house and up into the loft. You see them grow, they go right through the main area and up into the loft.
And they're no longer alive.
They're
right?
no longer alive. I covered them with shellac or sealer.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They give it still that feel of treehouse.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah.
So the community came together. What community is this that we're talking about?
It was members from our church.
Uh-huh.
It was friends. It was our neighbors. It was family.
Oh, that
and
is
strangers. People we didn't know. And every single shingle on the treehouse, every pine board, everything that you see, it was donated. And all of the work hours were donated.
Wow. Mm-hmm. How long did it take?
They actually put it up in one weekend. It was like a barn raising.
Wow.
But then it was continued to be worked on and be finished through the next year. We were in the middle of treatment. My husband took on the reins of this project. I was in the hospital with our son, and so we would come home from chemotherapy, and he would see the treehouse being built. Oh. And there's actually a really nice video about the story called Josh's House in the Trees that was done by a man And I can get you that information. I can't.
That would be great. Is it online?
Yes, it's online.
So you could give me a link and we could put it in the show notes for people to.
Absolutely.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah. Good story.
How fabulous. And so Josh is now 11.
He's 15.
He's 15.
Yes.
Oh, it's been 11 years, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you still use the treehouse?
You know, we just had a week in between guests, and yes, my husband and I were out there sleeping in the treehouse. I love sleeping in the treehouse. It has a very good feeling of just love and compassion.
Oh, I bet.
It feels like a real sacred space to me. It's a message of love to my family and to myself. So I love staying out there. But the other side of that is I love sharing it with other people. So when I have guests, you know, I always tell them the story, and it's on my website, on the Airbnb website as well. Part of me also enjoys the sharing of the space.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. How did you come to the point of deciding to put it on Airbnb?
Well, we had enjoyed it for 11 years, and my son is older now and busy with high school. We noticed that we just weren't sleeping out there as much as we used to. And over the years, we'd had lots of family stay there and friends. We've had people from Africa stay there.
Just in the course of your community and your church? And
yes, my husband
like
works for a nonprofit, and he is focused in East Africa. And so we would have some of his co-workers, his colleagues, come from Africa here and stay with us, and that's where we would put them up. But working for a nonprofit, finances became tight, and someone suggested, you know, maybe you could rent out the treehouse. And I thought, Airbnb, I'm going to try this.
And you'd heard of Airbnb before?
And I had heard of Airbnb.
What year was this?
This was last year. So a year ago is when we put it, in the spring a year ago. So that's 2015.
Fabulous. This last year has been a big learning experience for you, I imagine.
Yeah.
What I understand from what you told me, first of all, for our guests listening, I want them to know, I'm looking out your back window through French doors, and I see the ground level of, I think, is it the ground level, like the first floor of the house that I'm looking at right here, on the same level as your own home?
It's on the same level as our deck,
deck.
and our own home, and underneath that is the garage. The treehouse has a garage.
Oh, so your guests have their own parking back there?
It's actually not. It has a hot tub in it, so it's so no. They park on the side of our house. They walk around the back of our house and onto the deck, and they access the treehouse from our deck. There is a trap door in the treehouse which leads to the garage. There's a ladder that goes down to the garage, and my son used to have his electric gator down there, which he would open the garage door and ride it around our yard.
Oh, cute.
A little,
nice.
Those motorized toys for children. Well, he's 15, so he's outgrown that.
Right.
So I decided to put a hot tub in there, an inflatable hot tub, and many of the guests get a kick out of the idea of opening a trap door, going down a ladder, and going into a hot tub. So they enjoy it.
That's great. Is it hard to service?
No, I go outside and open the big
garage door. Okay, good.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
So you said it's about 600 square feet, 500 or 600?
I think 500, yes.
Okay. And no plumbing?
There's no plumbing, no. We have had issues with some neighbors. We've always wanted to put a bathroom out there, but we have some neighbors who sadly tried to stop the building of the treehouse, even when it was for my son with cancer. And we've talked about putting a bathroom out there and plumbing, but these neighbors have let us know that they wouldn't be happy with that. So we're sort of just stepping back and thinking about how we might want to approach this situation in the future. Because ideally, we would love to have plumbing and a bathroom out there.
Right, right. It would make a lot of sense. So that means your guests need to come into your house to use the facilities. So you must have so they come through your living room and into your shared space to use the downstairs bathroom.
Yeah, so they come through our dining room or kitchen and use the bathroom that's down here on the main floor. We have another bathroom upstairs. Guests get first priority to the bathroom. So any of my children, they try to use the bathroom upstairs when we have guests. I thought it would be an issue, but it really has not been an issue with my guests. They read and see what the situation is, but I think Airbnb people are adventurous and hardy, and they're people that like people, and so they don't seem to have a problem with it.
That's wonderful. So your own living space, your own bathroom and bedroom are upstairs,
Yes.
and so you're on a different floor, basically.
Yes.
You can get your privacy if you need it.
Yes.
Do they also have access to your living area in here?
No.
And
Yeah.
not the kitchen either?
No, I have on the site that the kitchen is not for guests. If I had a guest really ask me and want to use the kitchen, I might, we might talk about that. But typically, they are wanting to go into Portland and eat all the food cart, good food that Portland has to offer.
Yes.
And because there's a tiny little dorm refrigerator, they'll bring snacks, and I offer bagels and cream cheese and jelly and coffee and tea and orange juice. That's there in the treehouse for them when they arrive.
I see.
And so they usually just eat that for breakfast, and then they go out and explore and eat out in Portland.
Wonderful. And do you have any idea how full you've been in the last year you've been doing this?
Oh, I received that email from Airbnb telling me, but I have been as full as I've wanted to be on the treehouse. I have blocked off sometimes for personal trips, or I don't rent it when we're not home, for obvious reasons. But really, I have been quite happy with how busy it's kept me and the income that's been provided.
Are you earmarking that income for something special?
At this point, when we started, the nonprofit world of our support had taken a nosedive. When we first started, I saved the income that was made for special family trips, but my husband is now in transition job-wise, and the income from the nonprofit has been going down, and so now we're using it to pay bills.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So this is really helping you
yes.
in your current lifestyle.
In our current lifestyle.
Very good, very good.
Yes.
And you mentioned that you have another Airbnb. Well, wait a minute. Before we go on to that, let's backtrack. Are there any guests that stand out in your memory that were exceptional?
Oh, that's so hard to pick.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so many they're very interesting people, but I would say my very first family stood out to me because they were a large family, and I'd have to say I love having families in the treehouse, and it seems to draw families more, which I enjoy. So the first family that came through was a family of actually 8.
How do you sleep that many in that little space?
I know. I explained to her how tight it was, but we have some pads that can go on the floor, and we have a futon in there as well as the queen bed and the 2 twin beds, and they made it work.
Wonderful.
They wanted this experience.
It's a Swiss Family Robinson
they were
kind
obviously
of thing.
close, yes.
Uh-huh.
And it was just so sweet to watch them together, especially when it was summer and they used our fire pit and they roasted marshmallows and played guitar and sang together, and hearing their laughter reminded me very much of 10 years prior when our kids were all home. And so it was very reminiscent of a sweet time in my life. And then I would have to say the other guests that stood out was the family, the 2 women that came with children in tow who were grieving the loss of a brother. And it turned out that their brother's name was the same name as my son.
Wow.
And so when they saw the DVD that it was Josh's House in the Trees, the one mother began crying, and it was just a very precious, sacred moment to be able to sit with her and hear their story and let them know that this place was built by love and compassion and the generous hearts of people, and that it was a place of healing. And I hope I expressed that to her. I think they ended up having a good time here in Portland and enjoying their stay. But it was just that connection of heart to heart and sorrow to sorrow, and
gives me chills.
Yeah, it was just very
cool.
powerful. So that was one that stood out for me.
A lovely story.
And then I had a guy who has written numerous books from Canada. He and his girlfriend said they wanted a place just to be off the grid, and they were here for a week. And he was actually speaking at a big technology conference in Portland. That's why he was here, and they were pretty up there. I mean, he would speak, he spoke with the president. He's met the president and had the president's ear over technology and what's coming in the future, and he was staying in my treehouse.
Fabulous.
That was exciting.
Funny. And earlier you mentioned that you have another Airbnb, and would you like to tell us about that?
Sure. It's I call it the large cozy room, and it's a room that was added on to the house after it was originally built. It has its own separate entrance and its own bathroom, and it's connected on our living room. And so what we did was we closed the door between our living room and the large cozy room, and we keep that door locked and pretend it's a wall.
Was that the original master suite then?
I am not sure if it was the master suite, because it does have a fireplace in it, so perhaps it was. We used it as an office for a number of years. And then for a guest room, yes, we put that on Airbnb too.
And how long has that been on Airbnb?
It's only been on Airbnb a few months.
Okay.
But before that, we had rented it out just on our own by word of mouth. Mm-hmm. And we were looking for long-term renters at that time, but I think I prefer Airbnb because it takes a lot of the work out of it, of trying to find somebody. And so far, it's been really good.
That's great.
I did have to furnish it. So there was that initial investment of furnishing.
Very interesting. Well, your house is beautiful. Thank you very much. This has been really great. Before we go, I want to ask you, have there been any difficult issues that you have come across as you've been an Airbnb superhost?
You know, the only two sort of difficult situations really turned out to not be a problem in the long run. One of them was a couple who tried to sneak in their little dog, and I caught them because it is a no pet. You know, I thought long and hard on that, but I just really do not want a dog in the house because of the potential damage.
Yeah.
But that turned out fine. We worked it out. And then the other one was some college students who were from Europe, and they did some damage. Oh. And when I found the damage afterwards, it was nothing intentional. It was all just not thinking, unintentional. I contacted the person who had booked right away, and he was very forthright, apologizing. I sent him pictures, and then he turned it into his insurance, which was from his country in Europe, and we worked it out together, and the insurance company took care of it.
Wonderful.
So I was reimbursed, and yeah, it worked out well. And I did the resolution center on Airbnb, and it worked out well.
That's excellent. That's good to hear.
I can kind of tell when people want to be left alone, and I can kind of tell when people are more friendly, so I just try to listen to that. And
how do you do your meet and greet?
I typically text them where to park, and then I ask them to just get out and come onto the back deck, and I meet them there, just right on the back deck, show them around. If they're coming in at midnight, or if my schedule doesn't allow me to greet them, then I do have a self-check protocol.
Do you pass on your cleaning work to an outside source, or do you do it yourself?
I do it myself. Sometimes I feel like a maid.
Yes.
Yes, I've thought about possibly doing that in the future. But at this point, I do it all myself.
I see.
And I do pay myself.
Very good. Very good.
Yes.
Well, thank you, April. This has just been great. We really appreciate it. For our guests, if they want to contact you, I will put your contact information in the show notes, and we'll go from there.
Great, and I'll send you that link on Josh's House in the Trees.
Perfect. Great.
It tells his story.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
April is a mom with a big open heart and a welcoming home. This story is not complete, or this podcast is not complete, until you go to the show notes and click on the link that will show you the video of Josh's House in the Trees. Rob and I watched it, and honestly, we both teared up at the end of it. It is really an excellent story with a happy ending. It was a real honor to hear April's story and to share it with you. Go to the show notes at our website, hostingyourhome.com, and click on the link that will take you to Josh's video. Also, leave us a note. We'd like to hear from you.